Hi everyone, my name is Brittany from Brittany Loves Reading, and today is the start of one of 3 TBRathon vlogs I will be doing this month. Leandra from the TBR Zero, linked down below, created this readathon. It is absolutely amazing. It has so many boards and so many different ways to participate, and I couldn't just pick one. There was no way. It couldn't happen. I needed to do multiple boards, so I wanted to do 3 weekly vlogs this month doing 3 different boards for TBRathon. So that's what we're going to be doing, and I'm going to be starting today. Today is technically the day before TBRathon starts. It is the 31st of December. However, I am going to start my first read today because I'm not going to get another book in this year. So I'm just going to get started on this. I don't have a ton of time to read today. We have things going on, but I do have a little bit of time. So I'm going to get a little head start. Since this isn't a competitive readathon, I figure that's okay. So that's what we're going to do. We are going to start off with the bingo board. So in this video, I will be trying to complete 1 full bingo on the bingo board. My goal is to do the middle across bingo. So we are going to be starting with going blind. So I need to pick a book that I'm going to go into blind. And I have somehow not found out anything about this book because I have really tried not to. And that is Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. This book I know is about publishing, but really that's all that I know. I loved Babel. Absolutely adored it. It was my best book of 2023. So I really want to read this book. I need to read this book. Babel was also my first book of 2023. So I think it's just kismet that I start 2024 off with R.F. Kuang as well. And will this be my best book of 2024? Who knows? It's possible. It possibly could be. It could happen. But because I am going in blind, other than that it's about the publishing industry and I think someone stealing someone's novel and passing off as an Asian author when they're not, hence the name, I don't know anything about it. So I can't really tell you anything about it until I get started. So let's jump into Yellowface. Let's see how far I get through it today. I definitely won't finish because like I said, it is New Year's Eve. So we have some stuff going on and I may get some B-roll of that. I'm not doing a New Year's Eve party or anything, but I am hanging out with family and friends a little bit. I'm going out for coffee this afternoon. I'll bring you along and we'll see what happens. But I do have some time to read today and this is what I'm going to be reading. So yesterday I made it to page 154 of Yellowface, which is the end of chapter 11, which is actually a lot more than I thought I would get through. So I'm actually very pleased with that amount. In this book, we follow Athena and June, but mostly June, because Athena dies in the first chapter of this book. So June and Athena have known each other for a very long time. They went to Yale together, I believe, and did writing workshops together and kind of moved up in the publishing industry together. They are very surface level friends though. They are there to kind of stroke each other's egos if possible, really more June stroking Athena's because Athena takes off, gets a popular book and moves through the publishing industry very quickly where June does not. June's first book does get published, but doesn't really do very well. It's kind of a flop, and Athena is the bigger author and the one with the awards. People are expecting things from this author, etc., etc. In the first chapter, Athena dies, and June is at her home when she dies and ends up taking her newest manuscript home with her. She starts to basically edit, add herself to the text, and then sells the book off as her own. This book is about, I believe, the Chinese labor movement in World War II. It's like a historical fiction of that account. And this is problematic, obviously, because Athena is of Chinese descendancy and June is not. June is a white person. So when she sells the book, she is saying I wrote it and she didn't write it. She did add things to it, but she definitely didn't write the book. Athena wrote the book. So she's plagiarizing Athena, stealing her work, etc. But then her agent and the publishing industry, the people who pick up her book, decide to change her name to her middle name, which is Song, to make her sound like an Asian author when she is not. and therefore yellowface. And we really look into the innate racism in publishing, but also we're inside June's head. So we're seeing it from June's perspective, and we're seeing June's racism. We're seeing June really lying to herself about writing this book after a while, and even seeming to believe at some times that she did. She's almost told the lies so many times that she's forgetting that she actually did steal this novel from Athena. We're seeing that come to haunt her now towards the middle of this book. People are starting to question what is happening with this book. Why is this author writing this book? And also, did she write this book? We're starting to see, reviewers, people on Twitter trying to discover what is going on. This book kind of doesn't sound like this author wrote it, etc. Right now, we're at the point where that is happening, and we're really getting a really intricate look into cancel culture, which is actually really interesting. I wasn't really expecting that in this book, and I was expecting it to look more into the side of the publishing aspect, which we do see quite a bit in this book, but we're also seeing it from the kind of more public side of writing and being a public figure. It really feels like we've pulled back the curtain on the publishing industry, which is really, really interesting. I'm sure R.F. Kuang is pulling from things that have happened in her journey as a writer. It's really quite an interesting look into publishing as a whole and just the innate racism that we see in the publishing industry. I mean, we've seen this so much lately with Goodreads Choice Awards being so white, and also with a few recent, controversies in the writing industry, which I'm not going to go into. If you know, you know. But right now we're seeing a lot of that happening. And this book really hits almost very close to home in what's currently happening in writing and publishing and reviewing. It's a really poignant look at that. R.F. Kuang is a fabulous writer. We all know this. No one is shocked that I'm saying this book is fabulously written. It's R.F. Kuang. But I'm really intrigued to continue. I cannot wait to see how this book kind of wraps up in the end. And I should finish it today. I mean, I read 50% yesterday. I should be able to read another 50% today. I do also have to read a little bit of Eye of the World today, which has nothing to do with this vlog. I won't be reading it in this vlog, but I'm doing a read along of it. So I need to start reading Eye of the World today as well. So that will cut into my reading time a little bit, but I still should be able to finish this today. So it's Wednesday. A couple of things have happened since I last talked to you. Yesterday, I was on sprints a good portion of the day. I was on with Margaret in the afternoon, and then I had Tuesday night sprints on my channel. So I got a lot of reading done, and I need to communicate that with you. I have finished Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. This book was so good, and I went into it expecting it to be good because it's R.F. Kuang. And R.F. Kuang can write like no one else that I have ever read. The versatility of R.F. Kuang is nothing short of excellent. All of R.F. Kuang's books are so different. I haven't read The Poppy War completely, but I know that is military fantasy. And people who love military fantasy love The Poppy War. I have read Babel, which is dark academia. I love dark academia and I loved Babel. And this is literary fiction, and it is excellent literary fiction. It's very, very good. It's very, very interesting. The commentary that R.F. Kuang puts into the books that they are writing through a fictional telling of a story is fantastic. And this book lived up to that completely. The only thing that I didn't 100% love about this book was the main character, which you are supposed to not like the main character. I do understand that. She is extremely racist. She is extremely narcissistic in her thinking of herself and her own importance and what is of her own quality, and very delusional in her thinking around her behavior. You are not supposed to like this character. I do understand that. And that is fine. I did find it tiresome at times to always be in her head and be in her perspective. So I don't know if another perspective would have helped me. I think it would have, but that's just a personal me thing because this book is great in every other way. And maybe it's just like a personal preference thing, but I did find it a little tiresome to be in this horrible person's head for the entirety of the book. That being said, this still got a very high 4 stars from me. It is still a fantastic book. And I think everyone should read this, especially those people who love books and are interested in publishing and writing, because this is a really interesting commentary of racism in the publishing industry, racism in the writing industry, and everything about the book and writing industry. This covers so many different topics, and I think it should be on everyone's TBR if you haven't already read this book. Now, that being said, I have already started another book, and I'm almost 50% of the way through this book as well, and that is There Are No Saints by Sophie Lark. This will cover my second spot on the bingo board, which is indie pubbed. Sophie Lark does publish independently. I know some of the books may have been picked up by publishers now, but my copy of There Are No Saints on Kindle is the indie pub version, so we're just going to go with that. This is also my buzzword for the month, so I'm actually getting my buzzword done in January, my January buzzword done in January. Who is she? Who is she doing these things? Anyway, this is a dark romance that is a serial killer romance. So we follow Cole and Mara. Cole is a serial killer and he mostly murders men, and he is an artist, and he actually puts their bones into his sculptures and then gets rid of the rest of their bodies. It's very dark and very graphic, so please keep that in mind. This is a very dark romance. It's a serial killer romance. Now that we've got that out of the way. So that's what he does. There's also another serial killer in the art world, and they are rivals. They both know that they're rivals in the art world. They both know that they're serial killers, and they're rivals. But the other serial killer kills women and is very eccentric with it. Cole doesn't let his bodies be found. He's very secretive and really kills under the radar, where this other serial killer puts his victims out for display and wants all the attention. This other serial killer wants Cole to start killing like him, so he actually kidnaps Mara and tortures her and leaves her kind of where Cole will find her, near his killing grounds. He finds Mara with her wrists slashed, she's tied up, and he does not want to get involved. He thinks this will bring too much attention on him, so he actually just leaves her to die. She, however, is strong, and she gets away, and she survives. He finds out she survives, and he starts stalking her because he becomes basically fascinated with her, and he becomes very enthralled with her and wants to know more about her. Mara is also an artist. That's kind of how she came into the periphery of these two people in the first place. And he ends up kind of inserting himself in her life that way by being a benefactor to her and giving her a studio space. And at this point, we're just starting to see them kind of enter the smutty part of this book. We've had one smutty scene, and to be honest, that was where the book started to lose me a little bit. I was enjoying it up until that point, and I didn't know how we were going to turn it into a smutty romance, but how it happened was not what I was expecting, and I didn't love it. We didn't actually get smutty. It was just kind of we started to, and then somebody walked in and we stopped. So I'm hoping that once we actually do enter the smutty portion of this book, I'm on board with what is happening. Obviously, I'm not expecting this to be a PG romance or a healthy relationship in any way. It is a serial killer romance, but it still kind of rubbed me the wrong way. That little scene happened, and that's what I ended on to come talk to you. I was enjoying it up until that point though, so I'm hoping that that was maybe just a little blip, and we'll see how we go forward from there and how Sophie Lark takes it. I have high hopes though, because I was enjoying the first about 45% of it. So it was just the last 5-6 pages. I was kind of I don't know if that's how we should be entering the smutty portion of this, but we'll see. So it is the next day, and this morning I finished There Are No Saints by Sophie Lark, and I am of two minds in this book. The romance, I'm not loving. I don't love the romance. I don't like how it's done. It's done very bully romance-y, which does make sense when you think about it being a serial killer, but I kind of was hoping for more a mafia style feeling, even though he was a serial killer, because I know Sophie Lark does that really well. But this does feel more like a bully romance. He degrades her a lot. He's very unkind to her, and that is just not something that I personally like in a romance. I don't mind that he's killing other people. That doesn't bother me, but I do want him to be nice to the love interest. If that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. I didn't love the romance in this book. However, I did like this rivalry between these two serial killers, and the ending of the book really focused on that and kind of moving that plot forward. So I'm of two minds of whether to continue with the series. I'm kind of leaning towards not, because the reviews that I saw kind of said that the second book doesn't really follow the rivalry of these two serial killers as much as it follows the romance. Apparently, that kind of storyline with the two serial killers doesn't come in until like the last 70-80% of the second book. That's what I'm getting from reviews. I haven't read it. So if you think the case is different and can tell me because you've read it that I'm incorrect on that, please let me know. I might consider picking up the second book. But as of right now, I think I'm going to just leave it and not continue. I did give it 3 stars because there were aspects of this book that I liked, and then there were aspects of this book that I didn't love. So it was of 2 minds on this one, and it came out as a 3-star. I have already started my next book for the TBRathon bingo board, and that is for the prompt of green author, so to read an author's debut. And for that, I'm going to be reading Never Been Kissed by Timothy Janofsky. This book is also kind of a second chance author situation for me. I read the second book in this series last year, You're a Mean One, Matthew Prince, and I didn't love it. I'm only 40 pages in, so it's still very early days, but I am enjoying this more than I enjoyed the first book that I read by the author, but this is the author's debut book. In this book, we find Ren on his birthday. He is turning 22 and he is graduating from film school. He's a film buff and he actually works part-time as the manager at the drive-in movie theater and is kind of trying to keep the drive-in movie theater going. He loves the theater and it's starting to kind of struggle because it is vintage. People can stream at home. They're not necessarily going to the theater as often. And he's trying to save it. 8 months ago or 9 months ago, he came out to his family as gay. However, Ren, because he is still figuring out his sexuality and really has really recently come out, he's actually never been kissed. So he has been almost kissed a couple times, but never actually been kissed. In his email, he actually has emails that he's written to each of his almost kisses right after it happened. And he saved those drafts and he kind of wrote them as like a cathartic thing for himself at the time, but he never sent them. He is very drunk on his birthday. His friends are kind of like, when are you going to start dating? When are you going to put yourself out there? And he drunkenly sends the emails to these 4 people. But when Ren wakes up, one of them did respond, and that is Derek. Derek has responded. He's like, you know what? I don't really think of you that way, but I'm excited to spend the summer with you. And at that point, Ren finds out that Derek is actually going to be working at the drive-in theater as the social media manager for the summer. So not only is he embarrassed that he sent this in a drunken state, but he also still kind of has lingering feelings for Derek, and now he has to spend the whole summer with him. And I'm assuming this is a romance, so I'm assuming things do happen from there, but I'm not at that point yet. I'm just at the point where he finds out that Derek's gonna be around all summer. I have sprints for Thursday sprints today, and I'm hoping to get through a good portion of this book. It's under 300 pages, so I'm hoping to maybe even possibly finish this today. That's kind of my plan, is to get through most of this on sprints today. I finished Never Been Kissed this morning. It's the next day. I didn't quite finish it yesterday like I wanted to. I wanted to read it all in one day, and I was very close. I had about 50 pages left when I went to bed last night, and I finished it up this morning. This was such a cute romance, and I loved this so much more than the first book I read by this author. So I'm so glad that I gave this author another chance. This is the first book in the series, and the first one I read was actually the second. And I know the third is either out or about to come out. So I do think I'm going to continue with this series and just kind of understand that like the character work in the second one was just not my favorite. This one was so much better in my opinion. I really liked this one a lot. I loved our characters. I liked the story. It's a cute YA romance, and I had a fun time with it. So I kind of told you what this was about in the last clip, and we do see a romance between these characters as the book goes on, as they work together to like save the drive-in theater and also to fix up this older lady's house. She is an old lady. She is old, she's cranky, she's fabulous. We love her. And she is a director, but her movie, like she's never shown it to anyone. There's like a myth of her movie in like the classic movie industry. And Ren, who actually did like a dissertation on her for his film classes, is trying to get her to do a premiere at the drive-in theater as part of saving the theater. She kind of agrees that she will do this if he helps her fix up her house so that she can sell her house, and Derek helps him do that as well. Part of the beginning of this book, though, was Ren came out as gay to his family, to his friends, about 8 months to a year prior to the start of this book. And as we go through this, we kind of find out why Ren's never been kissed. And Ren is actually discovering more about his sexuality and discovering more about himself as we go through this book, because even though he wants to be kissed, he really needs an emotional connection with someone to feel comfortable. And he realizes that he is part of the asexuality spectrum and is probably demi. And we go into that with Ren and with Derek as well, of Ren telling Derek that's a part of him and how that impacts their relationship, and how Derek really works to make Ren feel loved and secure in their relationship. And Derek is so understanding, of course, and is so loving to Ren. And I absolutely love this couple. They are so cute. And I adored them. And I loved this little old lady, the director. I think her name was Annie. I suck at remembering characters' names. I only finished this morning and the names are leaving me, but I'm pretty sure her name was Annie. And she was just like this old lady who was like, I've got no time for this and I've got my own way of doing things. And she was fabulous. And kind of this friendship that the three of them have and all their peripheral friends. It was great. The only thing that I kind of kept having to remind myself of was that they were like in their 20s, because they were all working a summer job at a movie theater and everyone was working summer jobs. Someone was doing the concession stands and someone was doing the like letting people in and doing ticket sales. They kept feeling younger to me than they were. And I kept having to remind myself that they were like in their 20s, college graduates. Other than that, had a fabulous time and gave this 4 stars. And now I am moving on to my last spot on the bingo board. I have to do a book over 400 pages. So this is going to be the biggest book I read this week, and I need to read it, and that is Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. This is a book that a lot of people have been telling me to read for a while, and I do want to read it, but I don't know how I'm going to feel about it, to be honest. I know so many people who love this book, and I really hope that I will love this book, and I know so many people who didn't love this book, and I really don't know where I'm going to shake out on this one until I dive in and get into it. I haven't yet. I have put a bookmark in it, but like I haven't started yet. So I'm going to go do that now. This book I know follows Magnolia and BJ. I know it's very Gossip Girl-esque. And I know Neva told me that it would make me cry. So other than that, I know nothing. I know it's quite a toxic relationship. Actually, I do know that. So that's one more thing I know about this book. But that's about it. And I'm going to get through hopefully a good portion of this today, but who knows? I would like to finish this vlog tomorrow. That might be pushing it, but it will have been a week and I'm trying to do a board a week. So this may run into Sunday, but I'm hoping to finish it tomorrow. So yesterday I made it through 104 pages of Magnolia Parks, and we have hit our first DNF of 2024. I really wanted to push through this book because I know especially Neva and Rainey and Kelsey love this book so much and they really want me to love it, but I don't. And I was going to try and push through, but the more I thought about it, the more I just didn't see the need to do that. And I kind of thought about what I would say to you when I did this update, and nothing was positive that I had to say. So I figured you'd be like, why didn't you just DNF? And I wouldn't have an answer because I should just DNF. So that's what we're going to do. The writing style for me is the biggest issue with this book. I just cannot sink into the dialogue and writing style of this book. It just isn't something that works for me. And the main characters, I do not care about. I do not care about either of them. So I could maybe overlook the writing style if I cared about the characters, but I don't. So between not liking the characters and really disliking the writing style, I'm just going to call it on this book. And that is the end of my bingo. I'm going to count that as completed, even though one is a DNF. Since this is not a competitive readathon, I'm still going to count it. It still got a book off my TBR, which is the main purpose of TBRathon. So I'm still going to count it. For this week, we actually had a pretty good week. Other than that, we had 2 4-stars and a 3-star. It was a good start to TBRathon. And I get to start my next board and my next vlog. So I will see you next week with a brand new vlog with a brand new board. And I believe next week we are going to be doing the trail map. I think that's my plan. I'm excited to dive into a new TBRathon map next week. But thank you so much for watching this vlog and hanging out with me for this week. I will see you next week with my trail map vlog and also in sprints and videos between now and then. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.